You are soaring flight of imagination, saturated in the movable. Removable, no excuses. You're breaking all the rules. You are brew, composed in shea butter, peppermint and honey black soap. Nas lifeline inscribed in palm, unconventional, standing 20 feet tall. You are 1969 in the syncopated. Improvisation to the metronome. You chasse too. You allow your voice to ripen before time signatures expire in measures. You origami chords. You are where 30 shakes hands with adolescents realizing you just hit puberty. Watch as red clay seeps through pores building pyramids past prime. You are prime at 44. All brass, double bass, two drummers, three electric pianos, and percussionists all saying forget it at once. Oh, we are back for another episode of All About Our Liberation. If you don't know who I am, it is your girl, Heather Bird here, visionary and CEO of Bird's World Publishing, where we are on a mission to empower individuals, especially women of color, to write and publish their brilliance so they can turn their message into a movement. So I need y'all to hurry up and get your people in the room because today is going to be a little bit different than what we would normally do. All right. Because today I'm really excited to be able to invite you to All About Our Liberation, the podcast, as we work collectively to reclaim and rebuild our way back home to ourselves. This podcast is inspired by the upcoming anthology, and we are extending the conversation so that we can transform not only on the page, but in person. Together, we create permission. Well, we create the permission for you to write, to rest, and to remember who you were before the world got its hands on you. All right. So get your people in the room. Make sure you are tagging, commenting, letting us know where you are coming from because we can see you in the chat. All right. I'm going to shout you out. I'm going to bring it to the screen. This is definitely an interactive conversation as always. So I want to make sure that you have the opportunity to get your people in the room. Let me know where you're coming from. And maybe if you have a burning question or two, hop on in here and we'll be able to see what we can do with that, right? There's always opportunity for your questions to be answered. Behind the scenes, there is a whole nother behind the scenes thing that happens after this live that takes place on the paid wall of my Substack. So make sure you all check that out. But before we get started, I want to make sure to give a shout out to the network that has made this space possible for us. So if you've heard about the female solution, I want to make sure that you just take a second and find out more about the female solution. So I'm going to be back in about 30 seconds. Until then, let's go ahead and check out this quick commercial.
Women have the power to transform this world. We can end crime and violence if we all agree to do one thing: share. Let's share our wisdom, share our time, share our talents, share our finances, but most of all, let's share our love. This is the female solution.
All right, y'all. So we are back. There's still plenty of opportunity for y'all to get your people in the room because we're going to be here for the hour. All right. It is 7:03 my time. So depending on where you are in the world, we're going to go for at least an hour. All right. Well, only an hour. So make sure y'all get your people in the room. But before we get started with this episode, one of the things that I like to be able to do is I get really excited in the beginning and there's all this energy, but I want to create the opportunity for us to pause and to ground ourselves and to honor our ancestors and their wisdom. So one of the things that I would love for us to do is just kind of get ourselves situated and still. And as long as you are not driving, all right, you can lean in on this practice. So if you feel comfortable enough, go ahead and close your eyes or at least lower your gaze. And I want you to just take note of what's going on with your body, right? Your shoulders a little tense, Are they hugging your ears? Is there an opportunity to bring those down a bit? Is there tension in your glutes? Are your hands a little sore from writing all day? Is there the little wrinkle between your eyebrows because you're scrunching up your face? Is an opportunity for you to relax that. And I would like for us to take a nice deep breath in together. And exhale out through your mouth. And then collectively, we're going to take 3 more breaths together. And we'll inhale through our nose as usual. And when we exhale out, we're going to exhale out with a really deep hum. And I want you to find the part of your body that needs it the most. And I want you to send that hum to that part of your body. And think of the hum as either breaking up the tension or giving it a really great hug. All right? So let's go ahead. Take a nice deep breath in. And let's hum it out. It tickles my nose sometimes. So just be conscious of what's happening. Another deep breath in. And hum it out. One last time. Nice deep breath in. And a deep hum out. And as you're in this space, you can feel free to open your eyes or keep your eyes closed. But as you're in this space, we always like to open up with a quote. And today's quote is by Octavia Butler. All that you touch, you change. All that you change changes you. I repeat that again. All that you touch, you change. And all that you change changes you. So I want you to take a moment and take that quote in and let me know what that means to you and how it resonates with you. I'm going to drop it on the screen in 2 seconds because I don't know about y'all, but I am a visual learner. Again, all that you touch, you change, and all that you change changes you. And I want you to reflect on a question, right? What have you touched lately that has changed not only you, but the people around you? So think about how you've changed and the rippling effect of your change and what it's done to the people around you. Okay? So what have you touched lately that has changed you just as much as the people around you? Okay? So as you are thinking about that question, feel free to jot it down, drop it in the chat. Let us know how you're feeling. I want to take a quick commercial break, right? So jot down your notes. Let us know what your mind is doing. And then when we come back from commercial break, I am super excited about bringing our guest up. And like I said, we're doing things a little bit different today, right? So you'll get the opportunity to see what that looks like. But get your people in the room because I got to be here in order to witness it. All right. So I will be back in about a minute and a half with commercial break. Hopefully y'all will drop some of your thoughts in the chat and we were going to dive deep into this conversation because we're going to have some fun, y'all. I'm excited. All right. See y'all in about 90 seconds.
Welcome to Master Force with Mushim Suit. Join us each week on Thursdays at 7 a.m. Central, live on Facebook and YouTube on the Female Solution page, as we dive into powerful topics designed to assist you in mastering your life force, Our conversations feature a diverse lineup of experts, all dedicated to your growth. Tune in weekly to discover new ways to elevate your spirit and raise your vibration. And remember, we are ascending.
Great day. It's your girl Asada here to introduce a new female solution show called Asada Says. That's right. Every month we're going to talk about everything I am, from cryptocurrency and financial security to good health and parenting strategies. Come on and talk with me every Tuesday morning from 7 a.m. to 8 a.m. And let's do that thing the way Asada says it should be done. See you then. Peace, right here on the Female Solution.
All right, y'all. So those are just some snippets of the shows that we have within the Female Solution. We are here with y'all Monday through Friday from 7 a.m. to 8 a.m. Central, and then from 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. Central. So make sure you catch any of those shows. We also have shows on selected Saturdays and Sundays as well. So make sure you all check out the Female Solution Facebook page for the entire list of shows. There is something for everyone here. All right. So make sure y'all check that out. If you're just now joining us and you're still in there tagging folks, right? I want to let you know and welcome you to All About Our Liberation, the podcast, where we work collectively to remember, to reclaim, and rebuild our way back home. All right. So get your people in the room. There have been so many amazing conversations. This is our 8th episode that we are currently in. So if this is your first one, feel free to go back and check out the other 7, because when I tell you they have been juicy, I'm not lying to y'all. All right. Are y'all ready for our guests? I think y'all ready. I think y'all ready for what is about to happen in the little switcheroo that is taking place right now. All right. So now it is time for us to welcome our guests for this episode. And then we're going to switch places. Our guest is our guest host for today for All About Our Liberation. And I am so excited to be in conversation with Kim. All right. So I'm about to read Kim's bio, give y'all a little bit more opportunity to get some people in the room. Right. And then we're going to dive right on in there. All right. So for our guests today, we have Kim Katrin, is an international recognized educator, consultant, and social entrepreneur known for her work at the intersection of wellness, equality. No, I lied. It's equity. Get that word right. Wellness, equity, and social impact. Named one of the Roots Young Feminists to Watch and honored as Canada's national youth role model, she has spent more than a decade inspiring audiences through speaking, teaching, and community leadership. Kim has hosted events for the United Nations, interviewed cultural icons such as Erykah Badu and Roxane Gay, and has spoken at major gatherings including Dreamforce and the 2022 Olympic and Paralympic Games. She's now focused on social media marketing and brand strategy, helping mission-driven organizations amplify their message, grow their audience, and turn powerful ideas into movements. Y'all, we got some things in common here with this message to movement. We got ideas to movement, and we are making it happen. All right. So y'all help me in welcoming Kim to All About Our Liberation. Y'all give it up in the chat. Hey, Kim. You're here.
I can't hear you.
You can't hear me. I can't hear you.
Let's see.
Oh, no.
My mic isn't muted.
We can hear you just fine. 1 second,
I can't
y'all.
hear you. No, I can't.
Oh,
but can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
That's so funny, but I definitely can't hear you.
That's okay. How about you? Let's put a message in the chat for you.
Muted.
Yeah. You know, sometimes the world just won't let you be great. So we are here working through
Don't do that.
all of the technical difficulties that exist. But what we wanted to be able to do today with you all is having the opportunity to learn a little bit more about Bird's World. We have been here interviewing so many amazing folks that have come across this podcast. For the first episode, we had the opportunity to interview Dr. Barbara Shriver, where we talked about really leaning into our minds and our bodies and what that looked like, right? We had the opportunity to have conversation with Pam, who was our last guest that we had here, where we talked about her book, Women Don't Retire, and what does it look like to create a world after retirement that really leans into who you are as a person, and it doesn't just stop after retirement. You have the opportunity to lean into your dreams. So again, if you haven't had the opportunity to lean into the other episodes, make sure you check out my YouTube page, and there it's at Blue Birds World, BLUBYRDS, and check that out for all of the previous episodes that we have had, and lean into the conversation. Be there with us, right? So we're going to try this one more time to see if all the things are working. Can you hear us now?
I can hear you just fine.
Yay!
Everything's good.
Go.
Amazing.
Yes, thank you so much for being here with us.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much for having me.
It means so much. We have so many amazing conversations behind the scenes, and for us to make the decision to now bring this conversation to the forefront so that other people could be a part of it was a really, really amazing idea that you had. And so thank you for being the person to be here with us. We have so much fun every Friday. For y'all, get jealous because we have fun. The conversations that we have are amazing. But yes, what we're doing today, y'all, is we are turning the tables. And I am sitting in, so I'm gonna move you because it's official, right?
Right.
I am sitting in the hot seat and allowing Kim to take over as host today. So anything that you want to say? I did read your bio. I know you didn't hear it because of the technical difficulties, but anything you want to add to just who you are as a person besides a gorgeous human being?
Oh, well, I think that thank you for the bio, even though I didn't get to hear it. I trust you. But I think that I'm very interested in the liberatory work that women of color are engaged in, whether that is here or internationally. I think that I think particularly with you, one of the things that inspired this conversation was so much is just watching your brain work and pull together ideas is
Mm,
really phenomenal.
mm,
And your ability to create space for other people to share their ideas, and also to hold up a mirror for other people to see their own selves in a fair and a compassionate way. I think
mm,
sometimes, like AI can do this. It can be like very sycophantic where you're like, it's just saying, yes, you're wonderful and you're amazing, or I think a lot of inherently underlyingly racist spaces can be overly critical in a way that isn't authentic. But
mm.
you have this really beautiful marriage of being able to be kind and thoughtful, but also like clear and accountable in the way that you're creating space for the people. So I was like, I would love to just talk to you more about that, because I can't wait for more and more people to be able to see that and experience that.
Yeah. Oh, thank you so much for all of that language. I never know how to sum it all up, and that was a really beautiful summary. So thank you.
My pleasure. So I would love to just get right into it. Are you okay
Yeah,
to
let's
go?
do it. I'm for it.
Cool. All right, amazing. I think like one of the questions I always have for you is when someone first comes to you with like a vague, kind of an amorphous idea, what's the first thing that you're listening for? Like, how do you know when someone is talking to you that they should write a book?
Yes. First of all, that's one of my favorite parts of the process is when someone is inquiring about whether or not they should or shouldn't write a book. And many of the times someone will come to me and they'll have hesitations, right? There may be hesitations because they have written something and they got negative feedback on it, or something happened to them in school and
Mhm.
it deterred them from wanting to write and publish their book. And so the thing that I am listening for, I think it's twofold. One is being able to identify the root pain that exists, like the hesitation that they're having in terms of moving them forward. Because just because they schedule time with me doesn't mean they're actually ready. Sometimes they just want to learn more about the process. And I'm listening for, well, what's stopping you? Right? Because there's such beautiful opportunity for us to work through what that looks like. In Bird's World, we always talk about we heal first, write second, and then build movements with our message third. And in order for you to show up as your most authentic self on the page, you have to know who you are. And instead of moving forward with what other people have told you, you should be, who are you at your core? So I listened for who you are at your core first and the hesitations that you might have. And then the second piece of it is what lights you up, right? How how can we take the thing that makes you jump for joy and turn it into reality?
Do you find that there is any sort of pattern that you notice where people have lost the connection to the thing that brings them joy and maybe picked up the fear in its place? Do those
Can you
things happen at the same time? Oh, yeah, for
yeah,
sure.
one
Do
more
you find
time?
that there's some sort of pattern that you notice when you're talking to people of that where or how they lost the connection with the thing that brings them the joy and how, fear kind of ended up taking that place? Because I feel like you've connected with so many different kinds of people. Is there something that connects the way that that happens?
There is a period of time when someone is younger, and when they're younger, we have all of the encouragement in the world to be who we want to be when we grow up. And there's a period of time that it's around like fourth, fifth, sixth grade where we lose the color in the classroom, where we lose the opportunity to color, where we lose the opportunity to play, and people are prepping you for this machine, which is capitalism, which is the world, which is you have to go into the workforce, and creativity isn't seen as an essential piece of who we can be. And so there's this period where people have shifted out of necessity when it comes to how they move. And because they've been out of practice, they lose it. But there's always been like this whisper in the back of their minds that said, I've always wanted to do this thing, but people told me that I couldn't. I have gone through so many stages of my life where someone told me that I couldn't do something. And luckily for me, I said, watch me. Like I didn't allow for them to say I couldn't do it and it served as truth. That was their truth and that was their understanding of what was possible. For me, I said, okay, just because you haven't done it doesn't mean I can't do it, right? But not a lot of people have that muscle and or that permission to think in that way. When you think outside of a box, you're stigmatized. you're shunned, right? And so there's usually a period of time where somebody was extremely creative, but they had to shift because they made the decision to fit into the machine, a box, even though they never fit. A lot of my folks also are servants. So they give so freely because they care so much and they give to everyone else but not themselves. They're the last ones on that list. And so they've lost a piece of themselves. And so I get folks who are in their late 40s, 50s, 60s who are now going back to the dream of always wanting to write and be a writer, and they're open to discovering who they can be at this stage in their life, and it's so beautiful to watch. It's so exciting.
So it's like, so you see this, and I think in a lot of ways you're connecting people to, that inner child or that childlike vision that they have, that sense of play and creativity. I think that that's everybody wants that. Everybody, and I
Mhm.
think we've seen lots of that in recent years, people talking about reparenting or reconnecting with
Mhm.
your inner child. And so when someone is in a space with you, whether they're like one-on-one consulting with you, or maybe they're in the morning or evening pages, what is it that you do in those spaces that allows them to connect to that authentic, creative, childlike vision that they once had that they probably can't tap into in the rest of their life?
That's such a great question. It starts off before they even get into the room, to be honest, right? It's the connection of letting them know that I see them. And then when they are in the room, again, acknowledging their presence. Women of color specifically move through the world as a cog in the wheel. Like people don't see us. We're invisible to how the machine works, right? And so because we are moving and seen as just a part of a machine, we're not seen for our humanity. And we're definitely not encouraged to show up as our most authentic self. And so when someone walks into a virtual room or a physical room, I want to let them know that I see them. And just that one small but large acknowledgement begins to break down the walls when someone comes in. And it allows for them to be a little bit more curious on, okay, what is this space, right? I think someone put it really well um, about a month ago, 2 months ago. We're in April. It was 2 months ago where I was helping to pull together a vision for one of the women in my community. She had this vision of pulling together this futuristic um, program for her school, and she had this idea but didn't know how to bring it to life. And so she hit me up and said, I have this vision, but I have no idea how to pull it together. I need your help. And so creating the space to just listen and letting folks know that it's possible. Like, you don't have to know the how, that you have other people for that, but the vision is something that can exist. And so we were able to bring that to life for an entire school and make it happen. And it part of that reason that it was made possible is because I acknowledge the fact that an idea might be off the wall. Those are my favorite. How can we make it a reality? Right? It's the possible. Someone talked about how it's a possibility model that exists.
I think I think it was Joan, one of your ambassadors, who talked about you time traveling. And that for me really connects to this vision that you did because it was about the future.
Mhm.
As she was saying, I think she said it like get you someone who can time travel, you know? And I think that um I think part of what you're describing in terms of like people come with that sense of fear as they go off into the world because there's fear like can I provide for myself, can I take care of my family, can I with everything that's happening in the future, am I making the right choices now to set me up for there? And I
Mhm.
think that when we talk about you and like time traveling and the ability of your brain to work in that way and then to take on these sorts of impossible problems, um how do you bring that sense of like imagination from the future, or like a grounding from the past, because you also do all these beautiful things with your mom too, so I feel like it really is time traveling. It's not just in the future, it's not just in the past. So how do you connect across the future and the past to the present when you're
Mhm.
working with people so that they feel a sense of freedom and creativity, but maybe also like a sense of security to finally pursue their vision?
Hmm. That is such a beautiful question. So part of Joan, speaking of Joan, shout out to Joan. She has gifted me with the language of the title of being ancestrally guided. And I have done my own work. And part of that work is leaning into my own intuition. And so what might seem to be off the wall for someone else that they won't say out loud, I'm the person that's going to say it out loud. I'm the quirky one in the room. Like, this might not make sense, but this is what I am seeing. And I'm a visual learner. If anyone's ever seen Jingle Jangle, it was a Netflix special that came out during the pandemic. And two of the characters, Journey and Geronicus, they do this thing where they can see equations in the sky, and they're like literally solving the equation to this scientific problem. That is a really great example of how my brain works. Like, someone is talking to me, and as they're speaking to me, I am seeing images of what is possible and what they're saying, and then I'm pulling them down to root them and then present them to people to see what lights them up. Again, I can say all the things that I might want to say, but if it doesn't resonate with someone, it doesn't matter. So if I say it and then I watch your entire body language shift and get excited about the idea, that's the thing that I really want to be able to lean into. And so I want to make sure that I am I am honoring the fact that I've done my work and trusting my own intuition. I'm also honoring that I'm very observant, right? And so I've been in so many different rooms that has allowed me to pick up on so many different pieces of knowledge. I watch body language, even on Zoom. Like, a lot of people, there's that barrier. Yeah, we're working from like here up, but that says a lot about, like, you lit up when I said that, right? And so it's the same thing with people. We get excited. We move our bodies closer to the screen. Our smile gets bigger. Our eyebrow might raise. Like, it's the little things that shift that let me know that what I am seeing in the Journey Geronicus type way from Jingle Jangle is something that is resonating, and then we get to work together to make it a reality. So I think I answered the question, because it was such a big question to answer. But that's, people make fun of me a lot because and it's all in love. But when people ask me a question, I tell them, and I let them know now. I give the preface where I'm like, when people speak to me, I have a stenographer in my brain that is sitting in front of a typewriter, and they are literally typing up what is being said. So there's a transcript that runs in my brain. And then when you ask me a question, I go back, I reread the question, and then I go through my Rolodex of information, pull the thing down that needs to be said, and then I say it. So there's sometimes a pause when people ask me questions. And it just happened to me like 2 weeks ago. I was on a call and someone was like, Heather, you okay? And I was like, oh, let me explain to you how my brain works, right? But to even understand that that's how my brain works and then articulate that to other people so that they understand also gives them the opportunity to say, my brain works like that too. I'm not the only one. And then we get excited and have the opportunity to like celebrate each other in the way our brains work so differently, because there isn't a cookie cutter way of doing things. And yeah, it just opens up the door.
I got so excited. There are so many things that you said I got so excited about. First of all, that movie, it's so funny because I also saw that movie and I watched it and I was like, oh, that's probably what Heather's like. I was like, oh, that's probably how Heather's brain works. And it's interesting because you also have like a narration that you will do when you are bringing people into how your brain is working. Mm-hmm. Where you'll be like, okay, so I'm doing this thing right now, and you kind of step out of the thing that you're doing to describe the like to narrate. I often feel like I'm in a movie with you, and it's really fun. It's really, really fun.
Thank you for pointing that out, because I do that, but I don't know if I realized I did it and how it actually.
It's great.
How other people perceive it. It's great. Thank you.
It's great. It's great. It's super great. But I also wanted to ask, I had like 4 questions I wanted to ask, but I do want to say what you were talking about communicating over Zoom, because I think that, we all globally have had a shared experience of having to communicate online. Mm-hmm. So we all went through that together, like from very much in person to very much almost exclusively for most people online. And now we're, there's like a hybrid that's happening right now as we kind of sort through the world. And I think people often describe like a lack of connection when they're communicating with people online. But I have watched spaces with you in them, and I've been in spaces with you in them, and virtual spaces, and they are like joyful and fun, and they feel really connected. And I don't feel the same. I've worked online since like 2005. So I have not experienced really working with anyone who I have felt like virtually it's so valuable and so meaningful and so rich that I'm sure that there's more that I'll experience in person, but I don't feel like I'm losing anything. So how is it that you are able to host spaces online in such a way that there doesn't feel like there's a loss, that there really feels like you're very engaged and connected and supported, like you're actually in community with people online?
My brain did three different things at once. I originally wanted to say, I don't know. I think that's a superpower that I just have, that is I'm able to translate in person online. Like, I feel like when people are shifting to the virtual, they feel as if they can't do the same thing that they did in person. So I have a very problem solving like brain, right? If we are moving from in person to virtual, what are the things that need to carry? I ask myself, what are the things that need to be carried over to hold on to this experience as much as possible? What are the things that might potentially be lost, and how do we fill that gap? I am constantly asking myself, what are the gaps and how can we solve them? So for me, okay, yes, we might not be in person to interact with each other, but if there's a song that everyone knows, let's play the song and then invite people to dance. And then I will be the first one to dance, right? Like, some people are like, I got to dance on Zoom. I have on sweatpants and a button up shirt. We all do. You know what I'm saying? Like, why aren't we all just showing off how we are mismatched? Like, I lean into the quirk. I am a very, very quirky individual, and I own it, right? And so what are the ways that I can bring my quirk into the room to let the guard down to allow for the conversations to happen? So part of it is like a natural thing that I do. The other part of it is, okay, asking myself the question, what do we have in option A? What do we have in option B? How can we close that gap to make it happen? People, I've noticed, are afraid to interact with people online. So if that's the case, let me ask a question. Let me call on people to answer. Let me model. That's okay. I'm gonna reframe my I don't know, because as I'm working through it, y'all in my brain, welcome. It's modeling the thing. Right. So if I'm playing music and my shoulders are dancing, right? Or if there's no music and I'm dancing, people are like, what is happening? There's a song in my head and I figured I'd just like start dancing. Like, I'll just be myself instead of allowing the screen to take away my humanity. And that then opens up the opportunity for other people's humanity to come through and their quirks to come through. And then giving them the opportunity to be a part of the culture that is online. We were not all of us, but some of us were together this past weekend. And there were two community members that had never met anybody in person except for me. They knew me, but everyone else they had never met in person. But for the past 2 to 4 years, we have been meeting consistently on 2 to 3 years. We've been meeting consistently online. And when they met, it didn't feel like they were meeting for the first time, but then it did, right? There was the joy of, oh, you have a body, you have legs, you're a full person. And I also know your kids' names. I also know what makes you smile. I also know when you cry, how I can hold you, right? So it's part superpower, part problem solving brain, parts allowing myself to be my quirky self, which gives people permission to show up as they are, which kind of brings down the barrier that exists when we're online. And thank you. That question was amazing. I've never actually answered that question.
It's really special. It's very unique. It's a very unique gift that you have to be able to do that. I really have not, I've not encountered it in this way. So it's awesome to do it. I think, you know, you talk about Bird's World as, you know, you heal first, right? And you've described it, and it's been described, you know, Bird's World as being a healing ecosystem.
Mm-hmm.
So I would love you to talk more about what the healing looks like and what the ecosystem looks like.
Oof. I think the best way that I can explain the healing, there are two different ways. I'm going to explain through a story first, and then hopefully answer it in more of a frameworky way, potentially. So one of the moments that sticks with me the most is back in May of 2023. At this point, I had been running morning pages for 5 months. And I woke up that morning and I rolled out of bed at 6:20 because I'm not a morning person. Yes, we started at 6:30 and it didn't matter, right? So I rolled out of bed at 6:20 and walked from my bedroom to my hammock, and I grabbed my computer and I had everything set up. I let people in the room. We grounded ourselves. We greeted each other because we always greet each other no matter when you come in. We grounded. I played music and we wrote, right, for 25 minutes. And then 7 o'clock hit, and I was trying my best to figure out a way to tell folks that I was no longer going to be doing this. Because up until that point, I had gone through the most unbelievable circumstance you could think of, multiple circumstances at once. And I had been operating and dangling by the thinnest of threads, and I had nothing left to give. So I was getting ready to tell people this was the last session that we were going to be having, because it was supposed to only be for 2 months. And because it went so well, we kept going. But I had no more energy left to give. And before I could open my mouth to tell folks that this was going to be the last session, Joan hops on. And she was talking about, unprompted, how much this space has changed her life and how she moves differently because she gets to show up without her mask, without weight on her shoulders, without the costume that we put on every day when we leave the house, right? And how much it changed not only her life, but the life of her kids, right? This isn't just a thing that's happening for the person that's in front of the screen, because when we move differently, again, the people around us change. The people around us change. And so she's telling this story, and I'm hearing this at the most divine time, because again, I was getting ready to end the ongoing sessions that we were having. And then I start crying, and I let everybody in the room know I was getting ready to tell you all this was the last day. And because something was moved in Joan to say something, I now have the opportunity to be vulnerable and say, I have nothing left to give. Everyone in the room then showed up for me and held me and said, what do you need in order to keep this going? Because we cannot quit. And if you ever quit, we're showing up at your house, canes and all, and protesting until you come back, because this has changed our life. Right. So it wasn't only that the container was set up for me, for Joan to share, then for me to share. It was also set up so that there was a solution in place so that I didn't have to hold all of this on my own. Like, the burden wasn't just mine. So I think that's a really beautiful example, which is one of the many examples of the healing that takes place in this space. And one of the things that I notice when people come in, they have their guard up because all the other spaces that they have been in, they have been torn down, or they have been told that their writing isn't any good, or they don't have a story, or all of these negative things that have literally put them down all of these years. And so they're like, oh, this is just another writing group. This is another feedback session. And I can tell you that we're not. So they come up with this guard, and then within 30 minutes max, they see that this is different. And then the walls and the bricks start to come down, and they start to open up, and then they realize this is the space that they have always wanted but never experienced before. And so I watch each person in the first week of being with us be so, what's the word? So taken aback that something like this exists, that they're just in disbelief. The first week is just getting adjusted that this is even possible, right? So it's a really beautiful transition that that takes place when folks come into the room, and the healing ecosystem revolves around you not being alone. Whatever it is that you are going through, whether it is how you are showing up on the page or how you are showing up in a room physically, you literally have your sister resistors behind you as you were going through it, which give we literally have pom-poms. We cheer. You want to go through some healing, have somebody cheer for you in a way that you've never been cheered for before. There are pom-poms. Like we heal each other by showing up every single day for each other, not only for the page, but how we show up in person.
And I think that, you know, that really speaks to the idea of an ecosystem, right? An ecosystem is like living things that are connected and influencing each other.
Oof.
You know, and I think that, you know, people often say that you are the product of the 5 people you spend the most time with, right? And even in you're choosing a partner to be with, when you choose that person, you're trying to choose someone who you're going to like who they make you into, because just by being in their presence, you're going to become more like that person. And, you know, if you are in the morning and the evening pages and you're connecting so frequently, I want to know how you feel like the connection that you have with the people in the group influences you, and how you feel like how you feel that ecosystem functions. Like how does that part of it, you know, because as someone else, imagining myself coming into the group, for example, what am I going to become more like in the time that I am spending with you all?
Oof. You're going to shed a lot of what no longer serves you. And as you are releasing and understanding what no longer serves you, you're going to go through an identity shift, right? And that identity shift is going to require you to be held. I think another great example is, now mind you, I'm the guide, I'm the facilitator in this space, and they influence me just as much as I am influencing them, and I'm still trying to wrap my brain around how impactful this space is. And bless all of their hearts, because they are so patient with me, because I can't tell you the number of times that Katrin has told me something that I needed to do to move forward, to expand, or to rest, or to write more. Just, there have been so many messages that have been told to me that have required it to be repeated so many times I have lost count. And there are some messages that have been told to me over the past 3 years that are just now sinking in, right? I'm just now able to understand what is being said, but never has Katrin lost her patience with me. Never has Joan lost her patience with Shauna. Never have I lost my patience with Teresa, right? Like, we are like, oh, you don't see it now? Okay, you'll see it soon. Okay, you don't see it now? I'm going to remind you of why what I'm saying, what I'm seeing is truth, right? in my eyes. And then, you'll see it eventually, right? And so we're unlearning so many things. Some of the women that come in are 50, 55, 60. And so they are unlearning 40, 45, 50 years of conditioning that does not apply to them. So me telling you to do something once to undo 40, 45, 50 years of training is going to take more time than that, right? And so how can we develop a level of patience with each other to make sure that we are setting you up to be your ultimate self? Because most spaces don't set you up to be your ultimate self. They set you up to serve their purpose. We're setting you up to serve the purpose you don't even know is inside of you yet. That needs to live in a book, that needs to live on a page, that needs to live on a stage, right? But sometimes it takes 3 days, 3 weeks, 3 months, 3 years for someone to remind you of who you are.
That makes so much sense. I think that, I feel like the spaces that you create really show us tangibly how like neuroplasticity is real. Like you
Hmm.
really can change your brain pathways, but you very likely will not do it on your own.
No.
And I think that, having the new experience with the people who,
Mhm.
and I think the way that you talked about it is being like people who are actually going to keep being patient with you, who recognize that it is taking you 20, 30, 40 years to get to this place. And it's not going to take you one time to get out of it, but who are going to keep allowing you to rewire your brain and recraft the way that you
Mhm.
think about things. And then ultimately to create which is your first vision, your second vision, your visions.
Yes.
I'm curious, because I think a lot of people we're in kind of a socially anxious time, and I think that that makes sense for a lot of different reasons. I get it. I'm not like judgy about people being socially anxious. I get why the world is an intense place.
Mhm.
Um, for sure. Sometimes people are just stuck where they are and they can't change. That is very, very, very true. But I do think that what you're talking about is giving people a space where if they are going to change, it's going to happen there. It's going to
Yes.
happen in a community like that.
Yes.
Um,
If you've had the desire to evolve, just didn't know how.
exactly.
Yeah.
And so I think, because we're in like a very socially anxious time, more people would rather not communicate with anyone at all, like do everything online, or would
Mm.
much rather communicate or build those relationships with AI. And not judging that at all, but what is the interaction that people can have with you and with spaces online that are created like evening spaces and morning spaces that cannot be replicated by our interaction with AI.
Trust and truth are the 2 words that are coming to mind.
Mm.
Um, AI is gonna tell you what you wanna hear most of the time, and AI isn't going to have the opportunity to take note of how what I am saying to you, how it's being received. I can't notice how your head tilted to the side and you were afraid to ask the question but didn't. All I get is the question in AI. I don't get the, well, do you understand? And then you go, that's a no, you don't understand, right? But AI can't see right now. It can't be creepy when it can, right? Because we might be moving that direction, right? But you can't see, what is it? 80% of communication is nonverbal. Right now, we are only working with the 20% that is verbal, right? So when someone says something about how beautiful you are, and I watch you shrink into yourself, that lets me know that you don't know how to receive compliments, maybe because it's never been said to you before, or maybe no one has ever told you you were beautiful. And so when you break down into tears because you've always wanted to hear those words, but no one ever said it, AI is not going to see that. Or when you tell me a story about how, What's a really good example? Like if you're writing a book, because a lot of folks are using AI to write books. That's a whole nother segment for us to have a conversation around. Whole other podcast episode, right? Um, but what AI is doing, it's a large language model. Like it's pulling what everyone else is talking about, and you don't have the opportunity to infuse who you are as a person. Yes, you might share some stories, but those are the stories that you think need to be told. AI can't pick up on as you're telling the story, you are hesitant because you're afraid of what your mother might think, and be able to dig deeper into the root of why that is something that is scary for you, and then ask you the question, are you ready to tell this story? Have you gone through some sort of healing journey? Are you on top of your story, or are you in the story, right? Are you prepared? Are you re-triggering yourself? Like the little nuances again that come through with the 80% of nonverbal communication cannot be read. And so what we provide, I think you used this language earlier, is a mirror. We get to be curious, we get to ask questions, and we get to use your 80% of nonverbal communication to really get down to what needs to be said on the page. And someone told me this weekend, they're like, what's that thing you always say? Chat GPT could never, right? Like it can never be you fully. It can bring out certain aspects, but what we're doing here is not trying to be like everybody else. The large language model is pulling from everybody else. What we are doing is pulling out what no one has seen in you yet. Or maybe they have, but you haven't put it on a large enough stage. You haven't put it in a book. You haven't talked about it yet. It's the 80%.
That's huge. That's so huge. How do you then? I think that depending on how someone grew up, you know, they might not have wanted to look in a mirror for a very long time,
Mm,
right?
yeah.
And it might be fearful to look in a mirror, it might be uncomfortable to look in a mirror. I think that um some families historically might have even suggested that like being too self-reflective is like an exercise in vanity,
Yeah.
like you're being
Mhm.
self-centered. I think especially for women of color who are really trained to like look outward and think about how to take care and serve. You said you
Mhm.
work with a lot of people who serve others and
Yes.
support others, who are
Yes.
nurses and teachers and are in these positions where they're primarily pouring outward, that it
Yes.
might feel very foreign to, or it might feel like they might be like, is this narcissistic of me to want to like look at this mirror, to want to like feel this
Mhm.
reflection? How do you get people comfortable, and particularly women of color? How do you help them feel comfortable with having that mirror? How do you help them see parts of themselves or access parts of themselves that they might not even, or they haven't even looked at themselves in a long time? I think you talked a little bit about it in terms of like
Yeah.
you're watching for that interaction, or like the way that they might get uncomfortable based on certain things that you say.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would love to hear more about how to do that, or how you
Yeah.
do that.
It's a combination of affirmation. Oh, I had it in my brain as you were saying it. It's a combination of affirmation, permission, and seed setting. So a lot of the times we want to throw everything at someone all at once and then expect them to change it in that moment. And again, we are reprogramming ourselves. We are unlearning the things that no longer serve us. So I get a lot of folks who are um, between the 50 and 70 range. And in that generation, you were seen, not heard. And so they don't have a voice. And so asking them to utilize their voice is scary. They were literally taught not to speak up. So how do you then give someone the permission to speak up. First of all, I affirm that I see you. I affirm that you have a voice and that you have a story and that it is valuable. And when you say something, when I tell you, the pom-poms come out, right? When I tell you, one of the things that we do in our community is when someone says something that really moves us, we pick up our pens and we go, say that again, right? And so there's that affirmation of, I want to hear you repeat yourself because of the value in what you said, not because what you said we thought was wrong. Someone said it's so much better in the community. Shout out to Shauna. But she was like, when we ask you to repeat yourself, it's not because we want to prove you wrong or something like that. We want to hear it again because it moved us, right? So that's the affirmation piece. The permission piece then exists because when we ask you to repeat it again, it then goes, oh, I guess that was something that's really valuable to be heard. Again, I grew up, kids are seen, not heard. So I was trained, but now people want to hear from me, right? So now it's the permission to speak up, right? And then the seed planting is like, have you ever thought, I ask questions, right? Have you ever thought of this thing? I create space for critical thinking. In a world that wants to get that response from AI, in a world that people want answers to be told, fed to them and told what to do, I go, no, what do you actually think about this, right? Like I ask questions. And so I really do believe it's a combination of affirmation, permission, and then seed planting in terms of them being able to access what they used to have when they were 5 years old and utilize it now that we're adults. So yeah, it's so beautiful. There is so much that we could talk about, and we are already at the hour mark. I
Can I ask you one last question?
Yes, we can. To
Just
close
one
it out,
last small one.
let's do
Just
it.
you don't just work with the women of color. You work with people who are aligned in terms of what?
Mhm.
How else do you decide who else to work with, who else to support, who else to bring into the community that is outside of the women of color that you primarily serve?
Ah, such a good question. Thank you for asking that. Yes. So, everyone has their focus. My focus is women of color. However, look here. We have gone through this experience of being silenced. It looks different for women of color, and there is a need for protected spaces for women of color to evolve. That does not mean that I also don't work with other people, right? And so one of the ways that I have the opportunity to determine what that looks like is if our values are aligned, bring it. If you are someone who wants to write a book and the ideas just aren't flowing, but you are open to having a conversation, you are open to being stretched, right? If you might align with like my spiritual values in terms of like the intuition. Yes, I pull out tarot cards sometimes. You know what I'm saying? Like, again, not to be predictive. That is not what I use that for. I use that as an intuitive guide for me, right? If our values align in terms of equity, if our values align in terms of knowing that there have been spaces where you have also felt small, or you felt like someone was stealing your voice, right? Yes, let's work together. Actually, one of my clients, I'm gonna shout him out real quick, right? Two weekends ago, time is flying, right? Nairi Billups literally just released his book Unscripting with Birds World Publishing. Look, y'all, Nairi's not a woman of color. Like I work with people in different aspects. So there are spaces that exist that are for everyone who wants to do the work. Again, we heal first, right second, and build movements with our message third. If that is in alignment with who you are as a person, there are spaces for you. And I also know that when we are in a space for women of color, where we don't have to feel as if we have to show up a certain way because we will be judged, because someone thinks we are less intelligent. Maybe my hair isn't combed and who cares? Maybe I decide I want to speak in my South Side slang and no one's gonna be like, well, that's not a word. Yes, it is. It's in my dictionary, right? There is a need for protection for women of color because the rest of the world has not set it up so that we are protected. So those spaces are needed. And if you want to get a story out there and you're not a woman of color, there is still an opportunity for you to take advantage of all the other services that we also have so that we can also turn your message into a movement. So thank you so much for asking that question, because I get that a lot, and it's fair. It is a fair question, because that is what the message that is out there. But there are spaces for you too. So if you're not a woman of color, I got you as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Heather.
Thank you. Thank you so much for this time. As you can see, I really love questions. So if this is something that sparks something inside of you and you're watching this on the replay, first of all, let us know that you were here on the replay, so that we can be there. And if you have a question about what this looks like in real time, I do host an open house the first and third Tuesdays of every month. So look here, the Monday we have an All About Our Liberation podcast episode. On that Tuesday till tomorrow, I host an open house where you have an opportunity to come in, meet the community, because again, there's nothing like writing in community. Yes, you can write in isolation if you want to, but I'm telling you, you're going to go a whole lot further in community, right? So you get to meet the community. You have an opportunity to write with us and learn more about Bird's World and ask me the questions about what path works best for you. And if you have any hesitations, I'm here for you. I get excited for questions. So come on in, let us know. I thought I had this up somewhere and I don't. Yes, I do. Ha ha ha. So you can join us for our next open house, which is tomorrow, 6 p.m. Central Time. You can go to birdsworldpublishing.com/open house and check it out. And if you can't make that one, we will have another one. Reach out to me, DM me. There is so much that is happening here, and there is a movement that's occurring here. We are healing, we are writing, and we are building movements with our message. So, Kim, thank you so much for, again, being here with us. And for asking all the questions, for being curious, for being you, for being a light. Like you, when you smile, I smile. And you have just, meeting you has shifted so much for me. So I want to thank you so much for being here. And all about it's you are an embodiment of what liberation can look like in so many ways. And so I want to thank you so much for being here. Until next time, y'all, thank you again so much for being here. Catch us on you're making me do math, on the 20th is our next episode of All About Our Liberation, episode 9. And until next time, do you have any last minute thoughts, Kim, that you want to throw out there before we end?
I just definitely go to the open house. I think that you want to get a taste of it, like go experience it for yourself, feel what it feels like to be in community. And I don't think you'll regret it. I think you are on the beginning of a beautiful journey.
Thank you. Yes. Bad. All right, y'all. So until next time, I want to let you know that I see you. You are not alone, and we are here with you every step of the way. So until next time, bye, y'all.
We've come to the end of our show today. If you missed any broadcasts, go to our website for the audio and video archives at www.thefemalesolution.com. On behalf of our team of radio hosts, I'd like to thank all of you who participated in today's discussions. And to our global family joining us from all around the world, we say thank you. To our family in China, xie xie. India, Dhanyavad. Japan, arigato. Korea, kamsamnida. Russia, spasiba. Germany, danke. Poland, dziękuję. France, merci. Spain, gracias. Italy, grazie. Egypt, shukran. Ghana, madasi. Nigeria, eshe. South Africa, Ngiyabonga. Senegal, Jaref. Kenya, Asante. Israel, Toda. Pakistan, Shukriya. Afghanistan, Tashakur. Saudi Arabia and Palestine, Shukran. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Thank you, and may peace be upon you and the mercy of God and God's blessings.